Hello, I'm Riley Schultz.
I'm Maya Shalowski, and we're student leaders with the Learning by Leading program at the UC Davis Arboretum and Public Garden. If you're tuning in for Biodiversity Museum Day, you may already know a little bit about what biodiversity is. Biodiversity to us is the variety of species within an ecosystem. In our gardens, we focus on cultivating a diverse array of plants so that we can attract a diverse array of wildlife that perform a range of functions critical to this habitat and the entire ecosystem. It's up to us to help maintain biodiversity in the world, and we can do that right here in Davis or wherever you may be. In this video, we'll explore how we are trying to help conserve plant and pollinator biodiversity at our own homes. Hi everyone, welcome to Biodiversity Museum Day here at the UC Davis Arboretum and Public Garden. Today we want to talk to you a little bit about a project that we started called Potted Plants for Pollinators. We call it PPP, and the idea is that you have a container, whether it's a pot or a bag or whatever it is, and you have multiple species of plants that support pollinators. And we're hoping that it's a way that you can bring the Arboretum into your home to support plant biodiversity in your own garden and also to support pollinator biodiversity.
Alright, Potted Plants for Pollinators started because I would always read these articles about how we were losing so much biodiversity and how I had just no way to contribute to it because I was living in an apartment. But then I realized if I use potted plants, we could contribute to the environment and create an urban habitat corridor that could bring the pollinators from the fringe areas to our apartment and out to the other side of the city. We also looked at how many students were coming to visit our plant sales, but they wouldn't really buy anything because they didn't know what they could use in like pots, they were smaller spaces. So we decided to help them help the environment. So we started coming up with a shade and a sun pot, and from there we started bringing that around to plant sales, we brought it around to the honeybee festival, and there was a lot of interest for these. So then we made two more pots, one was an herb pot and one was a succulent pot. Eventually we brought them to the last plant sale of our plant sale season, and we were able to sell them, and there was a lot of good reception, and we managed to sell out all four of our potted arrangements. So the main reason that I already talked about, why Potted Plants for Pollinators is great, is that it provides spaces for pollinators. And it helps them travel throughout our urban corridors. It provides important resources, it can provide larval hosts, it can provide berries for birds, it can provide lots of nectar and pollen that's great for them, and most importantly, it helps them get through our urban areas and out to more natural areas so they can nest and find spots to, carry out their full life cycle. Potted Plants for Pollinators is also an incredibly equitable resource to provide native resources for native pollinators. Because of that, it means that a lot more people can get engaged and access and think about ecology and how much they can contribute to the environment. It also is a great place to learn and start thinking about how plants can be applied to your different ways of life. Another way that these pots can be used is that they can provide a stopgap solution. So when a landscape is being converted to a more habitat-friendly landscape, you can start off by placing some of these potted plants that'll provide that resource right away. And while you're working on your garden and tearing stuff up, they also have that potted resource to access. Finally, this is a great resource to be able to teach kids about the environment. Kids can get their hands dirty, they can get into the soil, pick out their own favorite plants, they have their own pot, and they can watch it, it's dedicated to them. They get really familiar with it and watch it as it grows in, they can see all the different bugs visiting it. It's just a good time overall.
Another thing that our Potted Plants for Pollinators project is hoping to promote is Nature RX. Nature RX is the idea of using nature as medicine. There's a lot of studies actually that show how being around nature, being in nature, taking care of plants, boosts your mood and your cognitive ability. It overall lowers stress, which is super helpful right now when we're all kind of stuck inside. Everything's a little more stressful than usual. Maybe going outside or going into a different natural setting is inaccessible. Potted Plants for Pollinators brings it to you and it helps you have nature right in your own backyard or front yard.
So how do you get started making potted plants for pollinators? Well, first you're going to think about where is this pot going to go? Is it going to be in full sun, part shade, or even deep shade? So these are very critical to plant health. Next, you're going to think about how big of a pot do you have to think about how many plants can I fit in there. You can either go with one large pot or a couple of smaller pots nestled together to provide that pollination resource. Then you want to think about what kind of soil am I using? I'd recommend something really well draining, so some sort of cactus soil is usually what they're marketed as. But most plants will do better with a well-draining mix. Finally, you gotta think about the design. Good tenants for a potted plant design, you want a good driller, you want a good filler, and you want a good spiller coming out of the pot. This way, You have lots going on at each level, and you're providing spaces, as many plants in the single space as you can.
Alright, before we finish up our intro here, we wanted to show you some of the potted plants we put together. These two are actually located in our terrace garden on the far end of the Arboretum in downtown Davis. Both of these pots are sun pots. The one on the left here has a spineless cactus thriller, that's an opuntia. The filler is the Penstemon pinifolius, and the spiller is an Arctostaphylos emerald carpet. For the one on the right, we have a coral yucca thriller, also known as Hesperalo parviflora. The filler is a Grevillea Mount Tamboritha, and the spiller is a creeping germander, also called Teucrium aeroanium. This pair of pots are also in the terrace garden, but are shade pots. They're beautiful, colorful pots. The one on the left has a Salvia Ember's Wish variety. Hummingbirds and bees go crazy for salvias. The fillers are Helleborus, and the spillers are the light green Lamanium maculatum's, ghost variety. As for the pot on the right, we have a Ribes malvaceum Montara rose thriller, a very popular garden and potted plant. The fillers are Telemus arugras, and the spiller is a beautiful yerba buena, the botanical name being Clinopodium douglasii. Alright, these gorgeous pots are gardens that the Arboretum and Public Gardens Habitat Horticulture team interns created. On the far right, we have a sun pot with another Salvia thriller, this one being of the Kisses and Wishes variety. The filler is an Achillea cracadoo, and the spiller is another creeping germander. The pot in the middle is designed for the shade and features a bright yellow iris golden immortal thriller. You can see where this variety gets its name. It is a great pot for the winter time, so any pollinators out and about have a winter flowering energy source. The filler of this pot is the blue-eyed grass, whose botanical name is Cicingrium bellum. Blue-eyed grass isn't actually a grass, it's in the iris family as well, but the spiller here is Origanum barbatingi. Finally, the pot on the left is another shade pot. This one has another Ribes malvaceum Montara rose as the center of attention, more blue-eyed grass as the filler, and Horkelia californica as the spiller. As you can see, there are a lot of really beautiful combinations of plants that you can put together, and they have just so many fantastic ecological functions, great for pollinators. Be sure to check out our other series of videos on how to maintain your potted plant and how to get more creative with your garden design.